details of glycolysis. So glyco means sugar. Lysis means breaking down. Remember hydrolysis? It needs water to break down. So glycolysis is the breaking down of glucose. So glycolysis is the breaking down of glucose. One glucose molecule will become 2 pyruvate. And each pyruvate molecule has 3 carbon atoms, because each glucose molecule has 6 carbon atoms. Remember C6, X12O6. So when we break the glucose into 2 pyruvate, that means each pyruvate will have 3 carbon atoms. And then oxidation by removal of hydrogen, meaning that electron and hydrogen ion. In this case, the removing of the hydrogen atom will be received by the NAD. So I hope you remember one of the coenzyme NAD plus will receive the electron and hydrogen and become NADH. And hydrogen ion. And remember this part, the end of glycolysis make 2 ATP. Location is important. Glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm. That means outside of mitochondria. It does not need oxygen. That's why we call it anaerobic. It does not need oxygen. So what is pyruvate? Pyruvate is a important metabolite in cellular respiration. If you don't have oxygen, if we don't get enough oxygen, pyruvate is reduced to lactate, or we call it lactic acid. Well, if it is alcohol in plants, well, either in plants and yeast. No, what I mean is that here and yeast. In other words, brewing. If you are into brewing beer, making beer and making wine, basically it's the anaerobic respiration. We force yeast to do anaerobic respiration so that the yeast will make alcohol for us. And the carbon dioxide produced, it is the gas that make bread rise. Okay, so bread can rise because we add yeast to it, and then when yeast does anaerobic respiration, then carbon dioxide is produced and rise the bread. Lactic acid, pyruvate. Oh, I forgot to mention accumulation of lactic acid in animal. If the accumulation of lactic acid is in the muscle, then you cause muscle cramping. Yeah, muscle cramping is because of accumulation of lactic acid in muscle. Fermentation is basically the same term as, so I put an equal sign here, is the same terms as glycolysis. Glycolysis, or is equal to another term, anaerobic respiration. Therefore, fermentation, glycolysis, and anaerobic respiration, they all only give you 2 ATP per glucose molecule. So here is the, I'll say the overall summary of the glycolysis. You start with glucose, 1 glucose molecule, it will become 2 pyruvic acid. Pyruvic acid is the same, you may assume that it is the same as pyruvate. Just like lactate, you may assume that it is the same as lactic acid. So 2 pyruvic acid equal to 2 pyruvate. And glycolysis will make 2 ATP and water. You will also make 2 NADH. This is important. Why? Because NADH will go to electron transport chain at the end of the cellular respiration. When we don't get enough oxygen, what will happen? For mammals, we will form lactic acid. Lactic acid, again, it is also called lactate, and you will cause muscle cramping and fatigue. Muscle cramping and fatigue. If you do it in the yeast, yeast, you will make alcohol and carbon dioxide. It's something that we talk about. So let's take a look of an example of the fermenting bacteria. It's called Lactobacillus acetophilus. So Professor Mermovich gave you the meaning: acid-loving milk rod-shaped bacterium. So acid means acid, philus means love. You know, it's like hydrophilic, hydrophobic. Hydrophilic, the root philic is the same as philus. And then lacto means milk. Bacillus is the rod-shaped bacterium. Live in the digestive system. They love acidic environment. That's why they live in pH 5. We consider good bacteria. They can be killed after the antibiotics treatment. We use them to make yogurt. Why? Because this bacteria can convert lactose into lactic acid. That's why we use them to make yogurt. One of the reasons we consider as a good bacteria because some people believe that it can help to reduce diarrhea. and also it can also have other probiotic benefit, like help people to lose weight or something like that. So that's why we consider it as a good bacteria. So glycolysis, again, it occurs in the cytoplasm. That's why we call it outside the mitochondria. So glycolysis is a 10 steps process. Many university, they require, okay, just memorize all the 10 steps, but we simplify it into two processes, two-step process. Energy investment and energy harvest. Energy investment. So our body need to pay or invest 2 ATP in order to start the glycolysis. So it's like you cannot gain anything by not from you cannot gain anything from not spending anything. You have to invest first, you have to pay first in order to get the ATP. So we need to invest 2 ATP first, and then glucose is split into G3P. Remember, G3P from photosynthesis it is the same G3P molecule. And then we oxidize G3P by removing hydrogen, okay? Hydrogen then is picked up by NAD plus to form NADH. How many NADH we form at the end of glycolysis? Do you remember? We form 2 NADH. Why? Because remember, 1 glucose become 2 G3P. So if you remove hydrogen from each G3P, then each hydrogen can go to 1 NAD plus. Therefore, you get 2 NADH. So that's the reason. So oxidation of G3P and further substrate. Okay, here we simplify the 10 step of glycolysis so that you don't need to suffer that much. The result is that we'll make 4 ATP. So it's like doing business, or you're gaining. So we invest $2 and then to a business, and then we get back $4 as the profit, okay? And then because we invest 2 and then we get back 4, so the net gain is only 2. The net gain of the glycolysis is only 2 ATP net gain. So I usually just require students to memorize the number of ATP produced. Input and output molecule. Input is glucose, 1 glucose, okay? Output is 2 pyruvate, and then we have 2 NADPH. Okay, that's all I require students to memorize. So that is glycolysis. Of course, I want you to memorize glycolysis occurring in cytoplasm. Okay, step 2, preparatory reaction. I usually just call it intermediate step.